Hello, this is Dr. Bob Flower, and today is Thursday, September 17th. Today I want to talk about a very vital subject to not only the United States, but to the world at large. And I would entitle this talk, Advancing the Case for Black Lives. Now, I want to qualify this talk right at the start by saying that I am not advocating the Black Lives Matter organization because I think it's a fact that they are not for a solid American culture. In fact, they've been designated as communist, at best high socialist. Okay, so I'm taking that out of the picture. I'm talking directly to the leaders and the independent thinkers of the Black Lives Matter movement. Okay? Now, you got the attention of the country and probably most of the world. All right, now what are we going to do with it? What's going on with these contributions that these athletes and movie stars and corporations, these millions of dollars, where are they going? Who is receiving this? What is the purpose for this money? How is it being used or not used? Okay, that's one large question that looms amongst the American public. Now, I think what's needed is a plan, a model to make this movement as successful as it can be. All right? And we're going to talk about that. But first, I want to give you a model. Something that occurred in American history and black history not too long ago, back in 1940s, in the middle of World War II. At that time, there was a group of men, black men, from a place called Tuskegee University, who founded the Tuskegee Airmen, fighter pilots. These men, approximately 80 or so, decided that they wanted to join the fight for America against the Nazis and the Japanese. So they formed and they developed skills in aeronautical engineer. They became fighter pilots. They trained for different systems, different strategies. They learned how to fly better. However, the Army and the government rejected them because they were black and considered inferior. What did they do? They developed their skills even greater until finally, in 1943, they received their mission. They received acceptance. And what was happening at that time? The American bombers were getting knocked out of the sky on missions over Europe and Germany. They were losing more than half of their planes on every mission, bombers. That's a lot of planes. That's a lot of men. There were like 10, 12 men to a plane. And when you consider they were going up 100 planes at a time and they're losing 50, that's like 500, 600 men at a time. And some of those squadrons were even larger. Finally, the leadership of the Tuskegee Airmen said, give us a chance to fly cover for these guys. You have nothing to lose. They got their chance. The rest is history. These men flew 200 missions. That's missions. That means that's like 5,000 airplanes. Their record of coverage for the bombers, 0. 0 losses. They went from losing 50, 52, 55 planes per mission to none over 200 missions. They were so good, in fact, that at one point they shot down 3 German jets. Who the hell ever heard of a jet in 1943? Nobody. These men flying at 250, 274 miles an hour came up against, all of a sudden, jets that were flying at 400, 500 miles an hour. They shot them out of the sky. A marvelous feat. In fact, 3 Tuskegee Airmen went on to become generals. Another magnificent accomplishment. Now, what is it that makes the difference between those men? Oh, one other thing I want to mention. I did a little research on this, and it seems like the Tuskegee Airmen and their success had a lot to do with the civil rights movement's birth in the mid-50s. The reason for that was because General Eisenhower recognized their competence, their character, and he said when he became president, he was going to put it into American society. And 1956, the middle of, actually towards the end of his first presidency, was the real birth of the modern day civil rights movement, okay? Attributable, in my opinion, once again, largely to the Tuskegee Airmen. So, what is the difference between these men today and the black movement today? Well, let's look at this. When they were rejected, did they bomb the barracks? Did they set fire to the PX? Did they fly in defiance over Washington, D.C.? No, not at all. In fact, what did they do? They developed their skills to an even higher level. They practiced, they calculated, they used their God-given intelligence to see how they can be better when their chance came, and they continued to push for their chance. They became respected. They became accomplished people. Are we accomplishing anything by these so-called peace marches? How are we advancing by virtue of what's going on? And I'm not talking about the riots. Let's just put that aside, because that's not going to get anybody anywhere except generate opposition. And by the way, those people are not for justice. They're for vengeance. They're for people who don't believe in themselves, who feel that they're being cheated because it's a hardship. Tell that to the Tuskegee Airmen. Tell that to the black doctors who succeeded regardless of what's been going on in their face by American society and American science. No. They didn't bomb anybody. They didn't shoot anybody. They didn't burn anybody out. Their main focus was to develop their potential, and then sought to achieve, to demonstrate that attempt, to realize that potential by getting in the fight and doing it with character, with valor, with nobility. These men were even more of heroes than most others because of what they had to endure. We don't have that today in the Black Lives Matter movement. No. All we have is resentment and fight and polarity. No. Let's look at what we can do to further that. And in order to do that, we got to look at some facts. Here's one fact. More than 75% of prisons are occupied by black Americans. Yet, black America only represents 13% of the population. So one of the first things we have to work on is getting that 75-78% incarceration down to around 13%. It's very possible, and we'll talk a little bit about that further. Here's another fact. Only 25% of African American families have two parents. No, no. It's no wonder kids are growing up lost, incapable. Of course, they don't have direction. They don't have discipline. They're not being taught virtues. We got to get that number up. Got to work on facilitating higher numbers, 85%, 90% perhaps. That's the second step. One of the most important things is the economics of the black community. Right? Now, this is important because I feel that historically what's been going on is they've been catered to. They're being treated like dumb children that we're going to feed and we're going to house and everything else. These people have as much intelligence and character as anybody else, but we're not treating them like that. Right? We're making them beholding to being taken care of. Wrong. There are ways that we can teach people who are struggling because of social stigma, so should we say, of becoming independent, wealthy. One way is to increase the capabilities locally, statewide, and nationally for schools of trades. We don't have enough electricians or plumbers and even carpenters. What makes me say that? Look at the prices we pay. So, as one way is to create better and more opportunities in the trades. The trades are good paying jobs. So maybe flooding the market might reduce the pricing a little bit, but that's okay because then everybody becomes on an equal basis. There are so many ways, so many areas that black communities can increase their own welfare, their own deliverance, that are not being thought of, not even being tried. I think we need to do that. I think one thing is paramount here. We need to have a plan that everybody agrees to in some fashion, and then employ it. Everybody work towards that plan. We don't have a plan now, except give them more money, reduce the standards, college, you don't have to do this, you don't have to wear a mask. No, you know what that implies? That implies that you are inferior, and that what's going to happen is that everybody is going to take care of you. Tell that to the Tuskegee Airmen. Tell that to the successful blacks throughout history. Tell it to our heroes. No, we need a plan. And we need everybody to be on board with the plan as to how to do this and how to help people. You know, here's a concept that I think white America has to take into account. If you have 2 bottles of water, and one bottle is a black bottle, and the other bottle is white and transparent, and you pour the water into 2 separate glasses, what do you have? Do you have black water? Do you have white water? Yeah. But you have white water in both. It's what's inside. We're not getting to what's inside. We're getting to what feels good, what gives me power, what gives me control. And I'm talking to white America now. I'm talking to those who are romancing the Black Lives Matter movement. You're not doing anybody any favors. In fact, if you don't get on board and come up with a plan that everybody can adhere to and service, get the hell out. Let those people, those blacks who have the intelligence, who understand what I'm saying, who feel that I'm right, to make the move. That's all I have to say. Thank you.